The galaxy was not quiet, it was never quiet, because stars burned and planets moved, because ships of alien empires traveled across endless darkness. But when that strange signal came, something changed, something different began. The stars themselves seemed to pause. As if waiting at the edge of the Orion arm, a giant shadow moved. Scanners from alien fleets caught the signal first. At first they laughed, thinking it was some lost pirate vessel, but then the laughter ended. Their sensors showed something that should not exist, a battleship larger than any blueprint they had ever seen, its armor shining with unknown metals, its engines burning brighter than suns. The alien commanders stared in disbelief. No empire had built such a monster. No alliance had the resources, yet here it was, drifting with perfect calm, not hiding, not attacking, simply existing, and already the galaxy felt smaller. Rumors spread like wildfire. Fleets whispered to each other across long-range comms. What was this ship? Who sent it? And why did every crew member feel their hearts beat faster, their throats dry without even facing a single weapon? There was a fear deep and old. Finally, one word appeared in the transmissions. One name repeated again and again: humans. Many of the younger species had only heard the name in passing. Bedtime tales told by elders, stories about a world far away, a race that had once reached into the stars, violent, stubborn, fearless. But the older ones, the scholars and historians, their faces turned pale. They remembered records buried in archives, warnings from the past, warnings that spoke of Earth. The massive battleship slowed, turning its hull toward the nearest alien fleet. No weapons fired, but every targeting system across the galaxy screamed. Alarms rang. Captains shouted, soldiers froze in their seats. It felt as if death itself had placed a hand on their necks, ready to squeeze. The galaxy waited. 5 seconds, 10 seconds, no attack came. Yet the silence was worse than any battle. It was the kind of silence that pressed against the chest, heavy and unshakable across council worlds. Government scrambled. What was this ship doing here? Had the humans returned? Were they here to conquer, to burn, or to reclaim what they had lost? No one had answers, only questions. And the questions grew louder than the stars. Inside the alien fleet nearest to the arrival, captains argued with each other. Some wanted to open fire, to destroy the strange visitor before it grew stronger. Others trembled and begged to retreat. Their voices shook, their eyes full of dread. They knew the stories. They remembered the old words carved in stone. Never wake Earth, but Earth was awake now, and its eyes were open. The battleship glided forward, slow and deliberate, its presence filling every screen, every sensor. Its engines pulsed like the heartbeat of some ancient beast, one that had slept for centuries and now returned to hunt. No translation came, no message, no demand, only silence. But the silence was not empty. It was a message itself, a message that screamed louder than any weapon. We are back in taverns on distant moons. Smugglers stopped their games, merchants froze mid-deal. Entire marketplaces turned silent as news traveled faster than light. The humans have returned. Mothers clutched their children tighter. Generals sharpened their swords. Prophets lifted their heads and whispered, "The old fire is here again." In one sector, a young alien soldier asked his commander why everyone was so afraid. The commander looked at him with haunted eyes and said, "Because humans are not supposed to be here. They were gone, but if they are back, everything we know will change." The soldier swallowed, his hands trembling, because even without battle, even without a shot, his instincts told him the same truth. This ship was different. It did not move like other ships. It did not carry itself like prey or predator. It carried itself like judgment. Stars glittered around the massive hull, its shadow covering planets below, and still no word, no shot, no action. Just the frozen silence that spread like ice through every empire. The galaxy had lived in wars, countless wars. Yet no war had begun with such fear. No invasion had started with such power. This was something else, something greater. And in that moment, as the ship hovered in the endless dark, as commanders, soldiers, and rulers alike held their breath, a single truth settled across the stars. The humans had arrived, and the galaxy was not ready. The silence deepened, the fear grew, and the galaxy waited, frozen, knowing the storm was only beginning. The rumors spread faster than light, carried by every channel, whispered in every corner of the galaxy. The image of the massive battleship was burned into the minds of all who saw it. Yet the ship itself had spoken no words, fired no weapons. Only its presence had broken the balance of power, and already empires trembled. But rumors are not born from silence alone. They are fed by history, and history is where fear found its roots. On a council world at the edge of the galactic core, Old leaders gathered in a dark chamber, their eyes glowing beneath ancient crowns. Holograms flickered above them, showing the image of Earth's battleship again and again, until one leader finally whispered the word others dared not speak. Humans, the younger rulers scoffed, calling them myths, calling them shadows of a forgotten time. But the older ones shook their heads. Their memories carried stories carved into stone and recorded in forbidden archives, stories of a race too wild, too violent, too stubborn to bend, a race that fought not for survival but for victory. Always victory, one alien scholar stood, his voice trembling as he recited the warnings. He spoke of ancient wars where humans fought with fire and steel, where they turned entire landscapes into ash just to ensure no enemy would rise again. He spoke of their strange ability to adapt, to learn faster, to grow stronger with every defeat, and of how after one last great war their name vanished from the stars. Some believed Earth had destroyed itself. Some believed alien powers had sealed humanity away to protect the galaxy from them. Others believed humans had chosen to disappear, to retreat into their small blue world and sleep, waiting. But waiting for what, no one knew now. As the battleship drifted among the stars, many feared that the wait was over, and that the humans had returned to collect debts left unpaid. In hidden places in the cold edges of space, smugglers and pirates told stories too. Their voices hushed as they passed mugs of sour drink. They said their grandfathers once saw human soldiers fight, that a single squad of humans could turn an army, that they never surrendered, that they smiled in battle as though fear itself could not touch them. Merchants in great markets retold the rumors to sell their goods, saying, "Beware, humanity is coming, buy weapons, buy protection," yet none of them truly believed their weapons would be enough. And still the question remained, if humans were so dangerous, so feared, why had they stayed hidden for so long? What kept them away and what pulled them back now? In the halls of alien academies, young students gathered around dusty screens to study forbidden records, their teachers too afraid to explain. They found scraps of data showing how human warships once fought against impossible odds and still won, how their pilots burned through enemy lines with reckless courage, how they would rather die than kneel. Some students felt fear, others felt awe, and some even felt envy, whispering that maybe the galaxy needed humans again, not as enemies but as a reminder of strength. Meanwhile, far across the void, on a mining station orbiting a dead star, a small crew listened to the broadcast of the battleship's arrival. One miner laughed nervously, saying, "Maybe they just came to trade." But the laughter was empty, hollow. None of them truly believed it. Deep inside, they all felt the same dread. Back in the council chambers, arguments raged louder. Should they send fleets to destroy the ship before it spread its shadow? Or should they bow, surrender before a shot was even fired? One voice said humans might have returned to protect, not to conquer, but the chamber fell silent. No one could imagine humans as protectors, not after what history had taught them. The debates reached no end. And across the galaxy, fear continued to spread. But in the hearts of ordinary people, fear was not the only flame. Curiosity grew too. What if the humans had changed? What if they were different now, wiser, stronger, but not cruel? What if their silence was not a threat but a warning to the old empires who ruled with chains, a warning to tyrants who used fear to control, a warning that balance was about to break? Some whispered that the humans were not here to fight the galaxy, but to test it, to see what had grown in their absence, to see if the stars deserved mercy or judgment. In secret corners, rebellions began to whisper too. Small groups of oppressed species looked to the sky with hope. If humans were as terrible as the rulers said, maybe they were terrible enough to shatter the chains that bound them. Hope and dread, two flames burning together across countless worlds, all sparked by a single silent ship. And still the humans said nothing. The battleship floated in silence. But silence itself was louder than war. Silence itself was the perfect weapon, for the galaxy had turned against itself, each empire watching the other, each ruler fearing the next, each soldier whispering about the ghosts of Earth. The rumor grew into prophecy, into legend reborn, and the galaxy could not escape it. Every eye turned toward the battleship, every heart beat with fear, and every empire asked the same question. Why had humans returned, and what would they do next? The battleship drifted in the void like a silent mountain of steel, its surface gleaming with strange alloys that no scanner could identify. Its size alone made alien fleets feel like toys, yet the ship carried itself with calm, not rushing, not firing, not demanding, only waiting. And that waiting felt heavier than any war. Inside the alien fleet surrounding it, Fear grew like a disease. Every captain watched their sensors again and again, searching for weakness, but there was none. The ship's hull reflected scans back like ripples in water, its systems unreadable, its silence louder than 1,000 declarations of war. Within the human battleship, the story was very different. Corridors stretched endlessly, glowing with soft blue light, each panel humming with quiet energy. Soldiers walked in silence, their steps heavy, but not nervous, their eyes sharp, their movements calm, as if they had done this before, as if they knew the galaxy would stare and freeze. The heart of the ship was its command deck, wide and towering, with windows that looked out into infinity, the stars scattered like dust, and beyond them, countless alien eyes staring back. The human crew moved with discipline, no panic, no rush, each officer at their station, their faces carved with determination. At the center stood the captain, tall, older, his hair streaked with gray, his eyes fixed on the void ahead, his voice calm when he spoke. "Hold position. No one fires unless I order." His words spread through the crew like steel, steadying every heart. "Sir," one officer asked, "they are afraid. But what if they attack first?" The captain did not blink, his voice was steady. "Then we show them why they should be afraid." The ship's weapons were quiet but awake. Massive cannons hidden beneath armored plates, missile bays humming with restrained fire, energy cores glowing faintly. The power inside the ship was enough to burn entire fleets, yet it all remained caged, silent, waiting, like a predator watching its prey decide whether to run or fight. In the crew quarters, younger soldiers whispered to each other. Some were nervous. Others smiled with excitement. One whispered, "Do you see how they look at us, like ghosts?" Another laughed softly. Not ghosts' judgment, they did not shout. They did not cheer, but their voices carried a strange fire. Not arrogance, but certainty. Even the ship itself seemed alive. Systems pulsed like veins. Engines thrummed like a heart. Every surface carried scars from old battles. Yet instead of weakness, those scars told a story. Humanity had fought, humanity had bled. And yet humanity had risen again, stronger, harder, unbroken. The alien fleets outside circled like wolves, but none dared to strike. Their commanders argued endlessly over comms. One cried out to attack now. Another warned that such power could not be challenged. And all the while, the human ship simply waited, patient, unshaken. The crew did not send messages of peace nor threats of war. They only watched, their silence forcing the galaxy to speak for itself, forcing the galaxy to reveal what it truly feared. On the command deck, the captain clasped his hands behind his back, his eyes never leaving the enemy fleets. He remembered the history his people carried, the years when humanity had been forgotten, mocked, erased from records. But he also remembered the strength of Earth, how billions united to build this ship, how every sacrifice had carved this steel giant into existence. He whispered to himself, not for the crew, not for the galaxy, but for the silence around him. "We are not here for revenge, but we will not kneel," his officers heard. And the words became a flame, a promise. Outside, alien soldiers trembled in their ships, staring at the silent behemoth. One young alien whispered to another, "Why don't they move? Why don't they attack?" The answer came like ice. "Because they don't need to. Look at them. They know we are afraid," and indeed the humans knew. They could see it in the hesitation of every fleet, in the trembling signals, in the way empires that once crushed weaker species now hid behind silence. But there was more than fear inside the battleship. There was purpose. The humans had not come to slaughter. Not yet. They had come to remind the galaxy of something long buried. That Earth was not broken. That Earth was not forgotten. That Earth had risen. Every corridor of the ship carried the same heartbeat. Every soldier carried the same fire. They did not need speeches or songs, they needed only silence. For silence itself was their weapon. The galaxy watched as the ship continued its slow drift. Its engines humming like thunder behind a storm cloud. Alien fleets moved cautiously, never daring to close the distance, never daring to test what waited beneath the steel skin. In the alien councils, leaders argued still in markets. Civilians whispered still in secret corners. Rebels prayed still, all waiting, all watching, all held hostage by the presence of one ship. And within the command deck, the captain stood unmoving. The crew worked without fear. The weapons waited like sleeping dragons. And humanity, for the first time in centuries, looked back at the galaxy with steady eyes. No one yet knew if humans had returned as saviors or executioners. But one truth was undeniable. Their ship alone had changed the balance of power. Without firing a single shot, the silence inside the battleship was not empty. It was full of history, full of purpose, full of the weight of an entire world that had chosen to rise again. And as the galaxy trembled outside, the humans simply waited, unshaken, unbroken, unstoppable. The first move did not come from the humans. It came from the galaxy. The fear had grown too heavy, the silence too unbearable. So the councils of the great empires decided to send envoys. They told themselves it was diplomacy, but in truth it was desperation. The chosen ship was small, painted in gold and silver, carrying symbols of peace carved onto its hull. But the soldiers inside were tense, their hands gripping their weapons as if words alone could not save them. They moved closer to the human battleship, every light blinking red, every alarm warning them that they were too near to something far beyond their strength. The massive human ship did not move. It did not fire. Its cannons stayed silent. Its engines glowed faintly like watchful eyes. The alien envoy ship sent a signal. The words simple. "We come to talk." Inside the human battleship, the message was received. The crew watched it appear on their screens. Some exchanged glances, but no one spoke until the captain finally nodded, his voice calm. "Open the channel." When the line connected, the alien voices trembled. They asked who the humans were, what they wanted, why they had returned. They tried to sound strong, but fear cracked through their words like broken glass. The human captain leaned forward, his face lit by the faint glow of stars. He spoke slowly, his tone measured. "We are humanity, we are Earth, we did not vanish. We endured." Those words alone carried weight heavier than any weapon. The aliens looked at each other in silence. They had expected threats, demands, maybe even roars of conquest. But instead they heard calm certainty. One alien envoy asked, "Why now after so long? After centuries of silence, why do you appear?" The captain's eyes narrowed. His answer simple. "Because the galaxy has forgotten balance. Because fear has become law, because silence was no longer enough." The envoys felt their hearts tremble. Some of them remembered the old stories. Stories of humans who refused to surrender, humans who fought against impossible odds. Humans who turned war into legend. Now those legends were speaking to them directly. The human captain revealed fragments of Earth's journey. How their world had nearly destroyed itself in endless wars. How fire and blood had almost drowned them. But from the ashes they rose, united as one, no longer divided by borders, by race, by greed. They had built the battleship as a symbol, not just of power, but of survival. The aliens listened in silence, their fear mixing with awe, because no other species had ever done such a thing. No empire had ever united so fully, so completely, that their entire world became a single purpose. The human captain's words carried a weight that felt like judgment. "We did not come to rule your stars. We did not come to bow to your empires. We came to remind you the galaxy belongs to no tyrant, no council, no throne. It belongs to all who live in it." For a moment, the envoys dared to believe this might be peace, that humans had returned not as conquerors, but as guardians. But then came the silence again, the same silence that froze entire fleets because even though the words were calm, the presence of the ship reminded them that peace was not the only path. The envoys sent the captain's words back to their rulers. The message spread across empires, across planets, across colonies, and with every telling it changed. Some said the humans had promised justice. Some said the humans had promised war. Some said the humans would burn the galaxy to rebuild it. In crowded markets, ordinary people whispered the words to each other, their voices hopeful. Maybe the humans came to protect us. But in the dark halls of emperors, voices hissed with fear. They came to end us. Back on the human battleship, the crew remained still. Their captain gave no further orders. The envoys had been allowed to leave and still no shot was fired. But the galaxy had heard the humans speak for the first time, and that alone had shaken thrones on a distant council world. One ruler slammed his fist against the table, shouting that humanity must be destroyed before their words infected the weak. Another ruler begged for caution, saying no weapon in the galaxy could match their battleship. Meanwhile, on worlds ruled by cruelty, small sparks of rebellion began to glow. People who had lived their whole lives in chains whispered, "If Earth has returned, maybe chains can break." The galaxy was dividing itself. Some saw the humans as monsters, others saw them as saviors, and the humans themselves gave no answer. They let the galaxy argue, they let the galaxy tremble, they let the galaxy decide what story to believe. Inside the battleship, one young officer asked the captain, "Do you think they understood?" The captain did not turn. His eyes locked on the stars. It doesn't matter if they understand. It matters that they remember. For in truth, that was humanity's first weapon. Not their cannons, not their missiles, not their engines, but memory. The memory of what humans had been. The memory of what they had survived. The memory of what they could still become. And so the first contact ended. Not with peace, not with war, but with a silence that carried across the stars, a silence that reminded every empire that the humans had spoken, and their words could not be forgotten. The galaxy shivered, the galaxy argued, the galaxy prepared, but deep inside everyone knew this was only the beginning. Humanity had returned, and the stars would never be the same. The galaxy could not stay frozen forever. Silence had turned into fear. Fear had turned into whispers, and whispers finally grew into defiance. One empire, bold and proud, decided to test the humans, to prove to the galaxy that the legends were nothing but old tales. This empire had ruled through violence for centuries. Their fleets were vast, their soldiers ruthless. They crushed weaker worlds with ease, and they believed themselves untouchable. When the human battleship appeared, they saw not dread but opportunity, an enemy to destroy, a story to rewrite. Their admirals gathered, maps glowing across war tables. They studied the human ship's stillness, its silence. They called it arrogance. They called it bluff. One admiral laughed, saying, "If they were truly powerful, they would have struck already." Another smirked. "Let us be the ones who end the myth." And so the order was given. A fleet would launch. Dozens of warships rose into the stars, sleek and sharp, engines blazing with pride, their formation a wall of firepower. As they approached the human battleship, the galaxy held its breath. Observers across countless worlds tuned into hidden channels, watching, waiting, praying. The fleet commander opened his comms, his voice mocking. "Humans, we see your silence, we see your empty threats, but your time has ended. Surrender now or be erased." The words echoed through the void. But the human battleship gave no answer. The alien fleet advanced closer, their weapons glowing, targeting systems locked. The commander shouted again, his voice louder, his tone harsher. "Do you hear me, Earth? We are not afraid of shadows." Still, the human ship remained silent, unmoving, as if daring them. The order was given, the first volley fired. Beams of burning light streaked through space. Missiles screamed forward. The galaxy watched as the storm of destruction rushed toward the human battleship. But then, in a single heartbeat, everything changed. The human ship awakened. Not slowly, but suddenly, as though a sleeping giant had opened its eyes. Its shields flared, its weapons unfolded, massive cannons sliding out from armored plates, glowing with a power no one had seen before. The storm of alien fire broke against the shields like waves against stone. Then came the counterstrike. A single blast erupted from the battleship's main cannon. Brighter than a sun, it cut through space with terrifying precision. The alien fleet's lead ship, a cruiser larger than cities, vanished in an instant, torn apart in silence. No debris, no survivors, just gone. The galaxy gasped. Even the proud admirals froze, but before they could react, the human battleship fired again. One shot, two shots, three, each one a storm, each one erasing ships as if they were made of dust. The alien fleet tried to scatter, but it was too late. Missiles from the human ship streaked out, weaving through defenses with deadly intelligence. Finding every weak point, explosions blossomed across the stars, turning proud warships into fragments of fire. Within minutes, the fleet was broken, shattered, burning wrecks drifting silently. The commander's voice screamed across comms, his pride gone, his words desperate. "Fall back, fall back. We cannot fight this," but retreat was no salvation. The battleship's weapons tracked them with cold precision, until only a handful of survivors limped away, scarred, terrified, defeated. Then, just as suddenly as it began, the human ship fell silent again. Its weapons folded back, its engines slowed, its guns no longer firing. It did not chase the survivors, it did not finish them. It only stopped as if saying enough. And then a message was broadcast. Simple, clear, and cold. This was a warning. Those 4 words raced across the galaxy. Louder than any cannon, heavier than any fleet. In markets, children repeated them. In council halls, rulers trembled at them. In rebel camps, chains rattled with new hope. The galaxy now understood. The humans had the power to destroy entire fleets, yet they chose restraint. That restraint was more terrifying than destruction, because it meant the humans were not reckless, not blind with rage, they were in control. In the ruins of their defeat, the proud empire burned with shame. Their admirals whispered in private. Their citizens asked why their leaders had provoked such a force. But no answer came, only silence. And silence was worse than truth. On the human battleship, the crew did not cheer. There was no celebration. The captain stood firm, his eyes calm. They wanted proof, he said softly. Now they have it. His officers nodded, their faces solemn. For they knew this was only the beginning. The galaxy trembled with new questions. If one fleet could be destroyed so easily, what chance did anyone else have? If humans had chosen not to finish the enemy, what did that mean for the future? Mercy or something else? And in that trembling, something deeper was born, a shift in balance. Because now every empire, every ruler, every soldier knew that the humans were not shadows, not myths. They were real, and their strength was beyond measure. The galaxy had wanted to test Earth, and Earth had answered with fire and silence. With power and restraint, the message was carved into the stars themselves. Humans had returned, and no one could deny it. The dread that had frozen the galaxy was now transformed into something greater. Not just fear, but awe. Because in the destruction of one fleet, humanity had reminded the galaxy of a simple truth. Legends live, and legends fight, and legends never return without reason. And so the galaxy waited once more, its heart pounding, knowing that the warning was only the beginning, that the storm of humanity had only just begun. The galaxy could no longer pretend. After the destruction of the Empire's fleet, no one could call the humans a myth. No one could call their battleship a shadow. Their power was real, undeniable, terrifying, and yet, they had held back. They had stopped when they could have ended everything, and that choice frightened the rulers most of all. The councils of empires gathered in secret halls, rulers shouting over one another, fear shaking their voices. Some demanded immediate alliance, to beg the humans for mercy. Others demanded war, to unite the galaxy against Earth before it was too late. But even those who spoke of war knew the truth. They had seen how quickly one fleet was erased. No alliance could stand against that. Then came the summons. The humans sent a signal across the stars, not to one world, not to one empire, but to all. Send your leaders, send your rulers board our ship. No threats followed. No promises, only an invitation. The galaxy hesitated, but fear is stronger than pride. And one by one, ships left their capitals, carrying emperors, kings, chancellors, and warlords toward the human battleship. They did not trust each other. They did not trust the humans, but they had no choice. They had to know what Earth wanted. The day the leaders arrived, the human battleship became the center of the galaxy. Countless eyes watched from every world, every outpost, every hidden colony, hoping to learn what the humans would demand. The alien rulers were escorted through the ship's endless corridors, the walls humming with power, the soldiers watching them with calm, unblinking eyes. The rulers tried to look proud, but their steps betrayed their fear. The air itself felt heavy, as if the ship were alive, judging them at last. They were brought into the great chamber, wide as a city square, its ceiling a window of stars. At its center stood the human captain, his presence heavier than armor, his eyes sharp as blades. He did not bow. He did not smile, he only spoke, his voice carrying across the chamber like thunder. "You rule through fear," he said slowly, each word striking like a hammer. "But fear ends today." The rulers stirred. Some shouted, some sneered, but none could drown his voice. He continued, "You enslave, you conquer, you destroy. You call it order, you call it strength. But it is nothing but weakness, and the galaxy has grown rotten under your hands." The silence that followed was sharp. The rulers exchanged glances, some with rage, some with shame, some with terror. One brave warlord stepped forward, his voice mocking. "And what are you, human, a savior, a conqueror? Do you come to replace us with your own throne?" The captain's gaze cut through him, his reply cold. "We did not come for a throne. We came because you forgot balance. We came because you turned fear into law, and law into chains." The rulers shifted uncomfortably, their crowns feeling heavier, their titles suddenly fragile. The human captain's words grew sharper. "We will not rule you, but neither will we allow you to rule through fear. The galaxy is wide enough for all who live, but no longer will the weak be crushed. No longer will blood be currency," some rulers hissed in anger. Accusing the humans of arrogance, others remained silent, afraid to speak. But deep in their hearts, they knew his words carried truth. The meeting stretched long into silence. The humans did not threaten, they did not promise. They did not beg, they only declared, and their declaration echoed louder than war. When the rulers were finally dismissed, They returned to their ships with trembling hands, their advisors whispering, their citizens waiting, but no one carried certainty. No one knew whether the humans were saviors or executioners. On worlds far below, ordinary people whispered of what they heard. Some celebrated, shouting that the humans had come to free them from tyrants. Others feared, whispering that the humans would turn their power against everyone. The galaxy stood divided, torn between hope and dread. Back inside the battleship, the captain spoke quietly to his officers. "They will not trust us, not yet, but they will remember our words." One officer frowned. "And if they resist," the captain's eyes turned to the stars, "then they will learn what resistance costs." In rebel camps, hope spread like fire. Whispers of the human ultimatum gave courage to the oppressed. Chains began to weaken. Secret uprisings stirred, and for the first time in centuries, tyrants looked over their shoulders. But in dark halls of power, new conspiracies began. Some rulers spoke of assassins. Others spoke of secret weapons they plotted in silence, determined to find a way to end the humans before their words turned into revolution. The galaxy had heard the ultimatum, and it could not be forgotten. Humans had not come for land, not for slaves, not for tribute. They had come to end fear, but in a galaxy built on fear. That was the greatest threat of all, and so the galaxy stood at a crossroads, trembling, divided, waiting. Would Earth become its protector or its destroyer? Would humanity's ultimatum bring peace, or light the fire of endless war? The rulers returned to their worlds, but their hearts carried no peace. For every step they took, every whisper they heard, reminded them of the truth. Humanity had spoken, and the stars themselves trembled at their words. The ultimatum was clear: fear ends today. But what would rise in its place no one yet knew, and that mystery was more terrifying than war itself. The galaxy did not sleep, not after the ultimatum. The words of the human captain echoed across every world, every station, every dark corner of space. Fear ends today, and those words were heavier than chains, sharper than blades. In the weeks that followed, the battleship moved again, drifting away from the council worlds, its engines pulsing like the slow heartbeat of a giant. The galaxy watched its every move. Fleets shadowed it at a distance, but none dared to come too close, for one shot had erased an empire's pride, and no one wished to test the fire again. As it passed through sectors once ruled by tyrants, entire populations gathered under alien skies, looking up at the faint streak of light cutting across their heavens. Some fell to their knees, praying. Others raised their fists, cheering, and some simply stared, trembling, wondering if this was the end or the beginning. The galaxy was divided. Empires called for war in secret, their rulers whispering of vengeance, their generals designing new weapons. But in the streets of their own cities, rebels whispered louder. The people began to question, to dream, to believe that change was possible. In one mining colony, children scratched the shape of the battleship into walls, calling it the shadow of Earth. In another world, prisoners sang in chains, their voices rising in unison. Fear ends today. The human words had become more than a message. They had become a banner. The rulers hated it, the rebels loved it, and the humans said nothing. They did not send more words. They did not explain. They only moved forward, their silence forcing the galaxy to speak for itself. On the command deck of the battleship, the captain watched the stars stretch before him, his officers calm at their stations, his soldiers steady at their posts. There was no triumph in their eyes, no arrogance, only focus. As though they knew their return was not victory but the beginning of a test, one officer asked. "Do you think they will follow?" The captain did not look away from the stars. "They already are, some with hope, some with hate, but all with fear." His voice was calm, but beneath it lay a quiet weight, a truth even his officers felt, that humanity's path was no longer their own. The galaxy itself was shaping it. The battleship entered a sector scarred by old wars. Graveyards of ships floated in silence, twisted metal drifting endlessly here. Fleets had once fought for dominance, and here, millions had died for nothing. The human crew stared at the wrecks as they passed, silent reminders of what fear and power had built. For the first time, a message was sent from the battleship. Not to rulers, not to councils, but to the galaxy itself. Open, free, heard by anyone who could receive it. The captain's voice carried across the stars, steady and clear. We are humanity. We have endured fire and ash. We have endured silence and exile. We have returned not to rule, not to kneel, but to remind the galaxy that no throne is eternal, no chain is unbreakable, and no empire can last forever when it feeds on fear. The galaxy froze once more. Listening, the words were simple, but they were dangerous, because they reached not only the powerful, but the powerless, and the powerless were many. On worlds ruled by cruelty, slaves repeated the words in secret, their whispers growing into chants on free colonies. Traders raised their cups declaring, Earth has returned on war-torn planets. Survivors looked to the sky with hope for the first time in generations. But the rulers heard too, and in their palaces they seethed, their fear twisting into fury. They called the humans liars. Invaders, demons of the past, they promised to unite against Earth. But even as they spoke, their people's eyes betrayed them, carrying sparks of belief that no decree could extinguish. The dread that once froze the galaxy was shifting, turning into something far more dangerous. All because dread makes the galaxy hide. But awe makes it follow. Awe makes it rise. Awe makes it fight, and now entire civilizations whispered of Earth not as a terror, but as a legend reborn. The battleship moved on, leaving behind a trail of broken certainties, of shaken empires, of awakened spirits. The galaxy was no longer the same. Its balance had shattered, its future uncertain. On the command deck, the captain stood tall, his voice low, almost to himself. They see us as judgment, but one day they will see us as fire. His officers looked at him in silence, knowing fire could burn or it could warm, and the galaxy had yet to decide which it would be. The story of Earth's return had only begun. The battleship was not the end, but the first step, a shadow stretching across the stars, carrying both hope and fear, dread and awe, destruction and salvation. And as the galaxy watched, trembling, whispering, rising, a single truth settled like a storm on every world. Humanity was back, and nothing, not fear, not war, not time itself, could ever erase them again.